Fantastic. I can see everyone saying low audio. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stick.
Они уже начали в этот раз без таймера, смотрю.
Be right back stream for just 1 second while I whack those numbers up.
А, скоро вернемся. Понятно, еще ничего не пропустили.
Hello, hopefully you can hear us better.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Oh, we've got like a
Так,
6-second delay.
что будет? Прежде что смотрим, геймплей по Вахе 40к за космодесант будут показывать.
They're saying no will.
They might be trolling me, so I don't know.
Bedson, throw. Is Will registering when he speaks? Will, you need to speak.
Testing.
Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to throw over to the game screen. Alright, so you guys should be able to see the main screen now. So, Will, if you can give one more introduction and we'll see if that works.
Рогатая крыса козня строит. Скайна. Скайны и сюда добрались.
Yeah, you can come join me. Okay. Me and Will are going to join a mic. You're gonna, Will.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us. Get to introduce yourself.
Hello, I am Will. I am a campaign designer on Total War Warhammer 40,000. And I've been doing that for a long time on various projects.
Спасибо, что присоединились к нам. Так, я Уилл, дизайнер компании WARHAMMER 40 тысяч. Уже давно занимаюсь проектом.
So now we are the two-headed Josh. And joining us with her is Oscar Will.
Hello.
We also do have on the PC, we have James Bedson, who you will hear us shout at as Bedson or James or whatever we take. But he's going to be playing for us. Bedson, I won't ask you to introduce yourself because you have no microphone. But Bedson he'll be playing at, we're aiming him for like a mid-skill level. We've told him not to be too good, not to be too bad. But we're trying to represent the average experience. Because otherwise, he could absolutely just steamroll. And we all know he would.
Apparently your mic isn't working now.
How can my mic not be working? Mic is on, it's just very directional. Alright, well, we're just going to have to get very into it.
We can do a bit of wiggling.
Okay, well, you're not going to hear much of me anyway. I'm just going to kind of introduce you guys and then move on. Alright, so what we have here is the build that we took to Gamescom. So if you are at Gamescom and you're on the show floor, you'll be able to play this now. Before we jump into it, you'll see that there's 3 sections. There's learning the basics.
Короче, те, кто будут на Gamescom, смогут вот эту демку даже попробовать поиграть там.
We will be skipping the cinematics just because we've got a lot to talk about. There is the taste of campaign, which is, as it says, it is a taste of the campaign, right? It's a thin slice, but we'll be talking a bit about the stuff that is there or isn't there. And then we've got a battle challenge, which is a larger battle that we'll be able to play. So before we get in, there are a couple of questions that we saw from the last stream that we just wanted to tackle first. One of them was, I didn't realize it at the time, but I was dropping quite the bombshell when I asked Dave about ammo. A very quick fire, it was is there infinite ammo? Yes, and we didn't really get the chance to expand on that. So, Oscar, I wanted to give you the chance to talk a little bit about ammo before we dive in.
Yeah, so, I mean, we had when we were starting the project, we had a lot of thought about, like, you know, should we do ammo or not? It's an integral part to a total war game. But I think there's various factors as to, like, why we decided not to do ammo in the end. Partially, it's not just that core to the actual fantasy. You know, Warhammer 40k is, you know, all about the action and kind of just like, you know, we wanted to kind of keep it more towards, you know, what's fun and exciting. The other part there is like, we're no longer in, like,
патроны.
in medieval ages. You don't just have a bow and an arrow.
Yeah.
You have a squad with different weapons.
Где стреляет абсолютно
Technically,
все.
we could track the weapon of each squad,
Делать
each weapon.
лимит к боезапасу
But
странно было бы.
That gets very messy very quickly for gameplay in terms of like, well, when should an unit attack? When should a unit not attack?
Yeah.
Or like, when do you actually run out of ammo? So it's just a simpler, neater gameplay experience that I think is more fun. So
Yeah, that makes sense. And the second question in the same vein then was, how common and powerful are the kind of army abilities they were saying? But I think they're referring to things like the lance strike and the bombardments.
yeah, it really depends on, again, the army ability. So you have like faction army abilities like the Space Marine doctrines that will always be there. Generally speaking, we've kind of put an internal cap of like, you're probably not going to have more than 8 army abilities in any given battle.
Yeah.
And obviously these range in power levels a lot. So airstrikes are, generally speaking, going to be on a lower power level. We're still, you know, tweaking with the balance of them.
Mm-hmm.
At this stage, we're definitely erring towards the impactful. But, you know, we're keeping an eye out on like how powerful they should be. And obviously then you have these like really powerful fleet bombardments or death strike missiles, the land strikes that, you know, need to have a lot of impact. But we need to have ways of basically controlling them from a campaign point of view. It's like, when do you actually get them? I think Will can probably explain more about that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that is this will work. It's fine. We're getting cozy. Yeah, I mean, you know, we're trying to avoid the situation that I think we maybe stumbled into on Warhammer 3 sometimes, where a character would just get a massively powerful army ability kind of just for free for being them. Like if you have a big powerful fleet bombardment, that's happening because your fleet is in orbit, right? And you put that fleet there, and you have upgraded that fleet, and the enemy is not doing things that are stopping you from using that fleet, right? So you should have, where there are these very powerful, you know, game-changing abilities, you know, you should have levers on the campaign map that help you kind of counteract them and stuff. So we want to make sure that there's control coming from the campaign layer as well as in battle.
Fantastic. Apologies for any of the microphone issues. We will, once Bedson's into a battle, perhaps we will quickly pop and I can have a look at those while he's doing it. Speaking of, I said we'd skip the cinematics, but actually, I think if we start off with the illumination cinematic, I can put us full screen, and then I actually can scurry and see if I can fix these mics.
Спаси Марину.
The galaxy burns. There is no peace amongst the stars. They flicker like a million candles holding back the night. Some will falter, some will fade. A few will linger on, their worlds worthy of protection. The Emperor's left hand descends for his angels. Courageous, dutiful, but ignorant of the trials to come. A journey is required. These warriors must seek the light before they can safeguard it. For if they fail, the candle they hope to shield, and many others, will be extinguished.
Cogitation protocols initializing. Nodal link established. Fleet modules online. Synchronizing crew data of the Emperor's Torch.
What is our status, Fernand?
Captain Halsor has made planetfall and awaits our arrival on Umbral Prime.
Very well. Commence mission protocols.
Cogitating. Decrypting mission objectives. Ident seals verified. An inquisitorial petition for aid. Operation Illumination. An inquisitorial vessel named the Sagacity has been lost, presumed crashed. It was transporting cargo of extreme importance to the Imperium.
What cargo?
Data has been redacted. It must be recovered at all costs. Arrival imminent, Lord.
Prepare for real space re-entry.
Real space translation complete. Ship systems operating within.
Корабль с грузами и технологиями, ну да.
Thank the machine god. Entering orbit of Umbral Prime. Establishing box link with our strike detachment.
Captain Halsor, have you located the crash site? Coordinates have been confirmed. It lies to the east.
Бля, ну карта пока вообще мне не заходит, не знаю. Остается надеяться, что это пока на альфа-стадии.
Survey of planet complete.
Ну да, либо просто еще может, как бы, опять же, да, биом планеты такой выбран, что он, блин, пустынный. И оно кажется, что вообще максимально прям пусто. Да, вот тут, конечно, будет капец, мне кажется. Неудобнячу так крутить. Получается, не ты камеру крутишь, а планету крутишь, да? Для обзора. Надо крутить планету. Не знаю, не знаю. Блин, подожди, а перебегает он просто из локации в локацию прям? То есть нельзя где попало стать? Или как? Подожди, я что-то не понял, как это работает с перемещением. Почему он именно туда побежал? Как это работает? А ну-ка. Бля, если чисто по секторам, то это, бля, это херня. Я надеюсь, не по секторам бегать надо будет.
Cool.
Какая-то свобода действий в перемещениях.
Our colleague James has been gamely stalling by showing you a bit of the tutorial as we've dealt with.
Ну давай, покажи, перемести
But what you're
куда-нибудь.
seeing here is the first planet of our tutorial.
А, нет,
campaign
вроде
called
не,
Illumination.
вроде норм.
So this is a sort of semi-narrativized campaign, a little bit like the tutorial campaign of Warhammer 3, where we do a bit of kind of scripted storytelling and kind of get you onto the basics of the game.
Yeah. So the first thing that they're seeing here really for the first time is planets, right? And let me give them a nice full view of that. So how does a planet work compared to what they're used to in traditional Total War?
Cool. So planets are kind of almost like the basic kind of fundamental gameplay unit of the game, right? Like most of what you're doing is fighting on planets. And a planet alone is quite like a detailed.
Я в курсе,
right? This isn't the kind of thing where you fight one battle and you capture a whole planet, right? A planet has many regions, many settlements, many battles to fight. You know, we're imagining that something like this. So this is a small planet.
Но тут вообще пока карта пустая, тут даже регионы не разбиты.
Way more regions than this. That would be probably equivalent to, say, like a continent in kind of Warhammer 3 terms.
Yes, and so this is a single planet.
Тут геймплея толком нет. Тут геймплей заключается в перемещении солдатика пока что к четко указанным местам, где ты не можешь никуда отклониться, поэтому геймплей здесь просто выстроенный по линейке. На данный момент.
And so what they can see is there are quite a few grayed out buttons there. So this build is, we've called it a slice and a taste of the campaign, right? What isn't in this build?
I mean, the tutorial in particular, which we're looking at now, is even more restricted. So there should be a few more buttons that you can press in the final thing. But like a lot of the content's not there, so you won't see much in terms of building trees. A lot of the interactions around fleets so won't be accessible. So we'll have a little taste of what you can do with the fleet later on, but you won't have the full range of upgrades and selections and things that you can do there. There's a tech tree, which you can't see here. But again, we can talk about that a bit later when we talk about the theatre and how that all ties together.
We are going to... Bedson, feel free to continue on, because it's going to bring up our first talking point of moving around the planet.
Cool.
Firstly, I guess... Oh, you are going to have to fight this one. Before you fight this one, moving around a planet is a bit different.
Yes. So one of the big things about this Total War, we basically have had to build everything from the ground up, from scratch, right? This is an entirely new campaign model. And while that, you know, had challenges, right? I think one of the first things I was doing was rewriting how you select things in the game, right? That's something we kind of had a basic.
No, Grimgar.
It's given us an opportunity to also
Grimgar 40k подтвержден.
What the best elements of so in recent Total Wars, you know, you've had this quite granular free movement, which is, you know, feels like, you know, there's a lot of flexibility there. But it has lost something that we had in the older games, where you have this like more kind of board game-like, risk-like, district-based movement. And what we tried to do with this game is get a kind of best of both worlds, right? So while there's a kind of granularity within the map that's much higher than you would have found in Shogun 1 or Med 1, your detachments, which is what we call armies in this version, they still move between these kind of larger segments of space and control those areas of space. Which means you no longer have to worry about, oh no, you know, I can move 95% of the way to the settlement, but I can't quite make it. So it gets rid of a lot of fiddliness, and also makes it a lot easier to handle things like choke points and kind of do much kind of broad stroke strategic gameplay. So
helpful for the AI as well, right?
Yes, it definitely kind of reduces the amount of spaces that the AI needs to think about, but also makes it easier for you to understand what the AI can do, right? It's a lot easier to be able to predict where the AI will attack, which makes it a lot easier for you as a player to kind of plan out your strategy in advance.
And so maybe fewer of those. I'm constantly just chasing them every turn.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Feel free to go into the battle, Bedson. And I believe we'll be trying to hot swap.
Yes. Cool. We'll do a little bit of a swap.
I mean, allegedly that might work. So you may wanna give it a little hello and see. We've got our mic man. Will, do you want to say hello into the mic just to see if there's any chance?
Hello.
Any chance you guys can hear Will while we're loading in? I'll go game screen so you don't all see Will's face. No. Okay. Then we've got 2 working mics, and that's fine. We'll keep hot swapping. In the meantime,
Ну, вот прикольно, что перед боями вот такие вставки есть, кстати, очень круто. Я надеюсь, впоследствии только они от них не откажутся.
Depending completely on your army composition, they're gonna reflect your customization choices. They're gonna reflect your faction colors. And basically, we just want to show off, you know, the cool units you have and kind of really set the scene for the battle. And just like elevate the storytelling that our battle does.
And I think the idea of it
И в Dark Crusade, и в Soulstorm играл. Dark Crusade там просто на одной планете действие происходит. Soulstorm там происходит то ли на 3, то ли на 4, плюс на спутниках. Не помню, уже давно это было.
how do Space Marines, and Bedson, feel free to just play through as we go, how do Space Marines differ to Astroneer as you're playing through?
I mean, it is a very different play experience.
Только да, если действительно эти ставки в обучении, а потом их не будет, блин, кстати, да.
The units that you have are going to be quite durable. Obviously, Space Marines have a lot of armor, they've got a lot of health per entity. They also regenerate in and out of combat. So you kind of, as long as kind of like the threats that are coming your way are managed and you don't get overwhelmed as a Space Marine player, you can keep taking on the odds. Like a Space Marine at choke point might be able to take unit after unit.
Yeah.
So playing as the Space Marines is really about like controlling the battle, controlling your exposure, and effectively kind of trying to dictate like where the fight is going to happen. Trying to, you know, spring surprises on the enemy by...
Когда, конечно, маленькие отряды, небольшие отряды космодесантов, как будто играешь Dawn of War. Total War вообще не ощущается в данный момент. Только когда полчища орков там или космодесантников, еще да. А тут прям как будто дов.
This is a special chapter of the tutorial. I can't remember what they're called, but they are not Ultramarines.
The near Ultramarines.
Ultramarine successor chapter.
What's a word below Ultra? The partial Marines.
Oh, they're just Marines.
Не, ну понятно, но я же просто говорю, что
это.
Ощущение Total War.
I'm good, thank you. All right, we're slowly fixing the broken mic, so please excuse us if you hear any interference. So this is a new map we've seen. I think this map is called Crashdown.
I think so, yeah.
And
вон Total War бежит, да-да-да.
Where would you say this ranks in terms of map density?
I mean, this is definitely one of the more open maps we have.
So a couple of choke points.
Пошел тир.
But otherwise, pretty open.
Yeah, it's basically centered around this massive crashed ship.
Упс. Это, надеюсь, не у меня.
That the orcs are trying to funnel through, and obviously they're getting eviscerated in proper gory fashion. You kind of really see that with Space Marines, the bolt rifles pretty much have the capacity to kill an orc in one shot.
So things running at you through the open, they're not going to have a very good time.
No.
And we can see as well, we spoke about it on the last
Орки, внимание, мы идем.
That was nearly friendly fire. But the weapon swapping, right? So they're using different weapons at different points here is what it makes sense to use to kill this enemy.
Yeah, correct.
Bedson, if you can actually click on one of the profiles there, expand, or just click on, there you go. So we can even see here all of the different weapons that they've got. And these will have very different profiles to the ones that we're seeing with the Astra Militarum.
Yeah, like one of the big things that we kind of worked on is like bringing in like the stat called evasion.
Yeah.
Which basically, you know, controls your chance to hit. So you kind of counteract accuracy. And some targets will have, you know, fairly high evasion, and they're gonna be harder to hit, especially in cover, or something like a vehicle.
Все у них там походу FPS падает.
Very easy to hit. So even like your orc is probably gonna be able to hit a land raider at distance.
Will it do much? We don't know.
Там в какой-то момент.
So the other thing this has that the Billy World video and stream that we did doesn't have is fog of
Пошли в
war.
укрытие.
So how does line of sight and fog of war work here?
So basically the core difference is that we've really kind of brought down like the distances that you can see, so you have less certain knowledge of the battlefield. And the core difference that we've obviously now visualized it with the fog of war shader, so you can quite clearly see the areas you can and cannot see. And depending on the unit type, you'll have different vision ranges, for example. So vehicles are quite blind at a distance.
Yep.
So if you, with many of the bigger vehicle weapons, if you actually want to fire at, like, say, like the max distance of a Baneblade cannon, you actually need to be kind of scouting for them.
Well, that makes sense. So you're varying your kind of the usage of your units in the army, right? You've got one looking ahead to make sure that they've got line of sight for the long range weapons.
Yeah.
So sight isn't always as far as your weapon range is.
Да.
And you can also, for example, see here in the middle of the map, the orcs came through the spaceship. And there was initially a building there. And that building basically obscured the line of sight into that area. So by destroying buildings that are in your way, you can gain more line of sight. And for example, with forests, you can bombard the forest.
Ну-ка, анимации.
Open up line of sight through it.
Yep.
Oh yeah, you can use, for example, some vehicles have smoke screen abilities
Oh, fantastic.
that you can basically activate to create a cloud of smoke
Ни
that will
хрена не
actually
увидел.
block line of sight through it.
Yep. And we were seeing there some of the intercessors, although fighting in melee, still popping off shots with their pistols as well.
Yeah.
Which is another thing that the new engine has kind of unlocked for us, the ability to have that weapon switching even during combat.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work to ensure that basically entities in combat, especially melee combat,
Yep.
feel more kind of natural and kind of do the thing that they would do. So, you know, for example, with this like missile in melee behavior that we created, a key part there was like
Обучающий
no
бой, тут
longer
толпы
want
не
to
будет
fire
орков.
fake bullets and pretend that we fired a bullet in melee. We actually want the pistol to be taking the shots, and you know, kind of get the right cadence of like, well, Space Marine will, like, say, an assault intercessor will pop,
Это типа а-ля
pop off
пролога.
a shot with the bolt pistol.
Вон
and there's a good
бегут.
opportunity for it.
Бля, опять
Very much
смотри,
like in
FPS
Tabletop, right?
проседает, или что это у них?
Just
Ядрить.
want it to make sense. Like we really want to kind of push forward the fantasy of
Yep.
the combat, and kind of make it feel like, you know, this is what combat in the 40k universe would look like.
Yep. And I think it's done a fantastic job there. So I'm trying to see if there's any questions.
Нет,
I
не
can
трансал.
pull
Мышь,
from chat.
курсор нормально работает.
Apologies, there is someone playing around with the computer while we're still doing it, so there may be some
Рождение орков
disruption there.
минус FPS.
But people talking as well about the. Oh, there we go. That's a fantastic explosion. The blood and gore, like it is a very
Куски.
blood and gory game, and that is it's not something
Кто
that's separated
фарш
out like there's been in
заказывал?
previous Total Wars. This is all part of the base game experience because we felt it was essential, like you just saw, to that visual experience for the game.
Yeah, and it's also just crucial for help selling the impact of weapons.
Yeah.
That's something that we really try to focus on, is like ensuring that things react in the world. Like when an attack hits you, you react.
Yeah.
Like you'll see, you know, Space Marines do like small glancing movements, for example, when like say even like a last gunshot might hit them. We won't stop the Space Marine, but you might see a small like impulse on the shoulders or something similar.
Yeah. One thing as well, people may notice in the difference between this and the
Ну
creative
как,
press
Альфа
footage
все равно
is,
как бы уже
unfortunately, at the time
основа
of capture, there was a
заложена.
small issue with the VFX in some of their footage, so you won't be seeing that here, and that is why there is that difference.
Уже основной скелет всего есть.
How are you doing with the battle, Bedson? He's doing well. Again, it's very hard to find volunteers to play on stream for us in front
За
of so many
Гварду, да,
people,
был
but,
же
he's doing a
прошлый
fantastic
стрим за
job.
Гварду.
So, to take some of the questions that I can see here, there is a question about space battles, which is something that I believe we spoke about in the community inbox stream we did back in January, which is they won't be in there for launch, but we know that they're an important part of the IP, and we will look at them beyond them. Another question about release date, of which I'm not just going to throw out there, but we are able to say that we're coming in 2027. Whoa! Good timing for that. So you can expect to see us then. And there'll be more information about the closed beta soon. So you'll be able to, those of you who signed up and are lucky enough to get in, will be able to experience and give some feedback yourselves there. This feels like a real last stand of those orcs.
Бля, орки хоть кого-нибудь
The
убьют?
morale system in game then. We saw with the Astra Militarum that can be quite important in make or break. How does morale differ for these Space Marines?
Тут походу подкручено
Space
в сторону
Marines don't break. They are
космодесанта.
unbreakable. They can be morale shocked, so you know, if you
Все, побежали.
get their belief low enough,
Бля, там
they'll
толпа,
still take
конечно,
penalties
отступила.
that are associated with battle shocked.
Yep.
But you'll never see a Space Marine unit run, and usually that kind of means that like Space Marines can keep going when the odds are against them, and can quite often also recover from that situation, provided that, again, the pressure isn't too much for them.
Yep.
So as a Space Marine player, you kind of really need to keep your eye out for when is my unit under such pressure that I need to intervene. Like I need to, you know, pop off a doctrine to help them fight, or use a bombardment, or you know, spawn in some Terminators.
Yep.
With a teleport.
We are going to ask Will just to say one sentence. and we'll find out in a few seconds if you were finally able to hear Will. Otherwise, we're just going to tell Will that he's on stream.
В армии орков, в отряде орков, два вида модельки.
Other Will. There's too many Wills. We've got
С
our
броней и
single
без
hot-like solution
на данный
we continue
момент.
to work with. Before we move on from here, you will see there's deployed, lost, and remaining. An intentional kind of difference wording here of lost.
Is this like mentioned to like the
Потери 2, да?
I think probably Will is probably better place because it's a
Отец
campaign
потери.
feature.
Well, we'll be going back to campaign,
I'm
so
gonna let him
we'll
swap.
do the old school.
So, yes.
Feel free to end out, Bedson.
Yeah, one thing that we're keen to do with Space Marines in particular is kind of represent how kind of resilient they are, right? They're super difficult to recruit.
Не, там 1 к 400 получается.
So, a Space Marine, entity or unit can be, wiped out in battle, but there's a small chance they'll kind of come back after in campaign. So it's a little bit kind of like, if people are familiar with the Dead Rise Again stuff with the vampire counts in Warhammer, it's kind of a way for you to get a little bit of resilience in your units and keep going in battle.
Тут настройка, покраска.
We will just now then move on to talking about customization. So what we are now is into our
Кастомизация,
taste
да.
of the campaign. Oscar, just say hello.
Hello again.
Let us know if you can hear Oscar. They are saying they can hear tapping. Oh wow, we may have fixed the microphone.
That sounds good.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Will. Feel free to depart. We're going to put ourselves back on screen. Let's go that side. Oh, we can all be heard. Only took us half an hour. All right, so we've got a name system here, similar to others that they've seen. So there are limitations in what name you can pick.
Yes. Is that a question?
That is a question.
That's a question.
Yes.
I will answer that question. So for various reasons, we wanted to kind of make sure that the names you're picking were at least somewhat in line with the lore. So you kind of pick from sets of pre-built combinations of words. However, there's a ludicrous variety. I think there's something like 17,000 combinations for Space Marines, and you can come up with some quite silly ones, and also some very edgelordy ones if you want. It's been interesting watching the streamers this morning, how they split between absurd and
17 тысяч комбинаций он можно сделать вот тут.
Сейчас. People either go pink or they go kind of
Название подразделений, да.
Yes. We'll see if there's anyone in chat who has any suggestions of a name based on what they can see. So short, medium, and long. You can always be the something of something. I find, obviously, because you can make your own version of the Flesh Terrors. I find that what's he called himself? Space Marines. Do you know what? Honestly, I quite like it.
One of my favourite is 1,000 Marines, just because it's like just extremely descriptive of what a chapter is.
Star Children. Actually, do you know what, Bedson? I really think you've done a good job here with Space Marines. Do you know what?
The Emperor was not feeling very
innovative that day. Maybe change one word, otherwise we won't be able to differentiate between the things that are like custom for our name and things that just say the word Space Marines. Okay, we'll be the Space Bears. So one thing we want to point out just immediately off the rip is this is not the full customization that we're intending to have in at launch. This is a much more limited version. The reason for that is it's quite simple, and that is during our testing, this is a build for Gamescom, right? This is a build where people are going to sit down, they're going to have 30 minutes to play. During our testing, our testers would spend 40 to 45 minutes on our customization.
And that's until we told them to stop.
Yes.
So yeah, it's there's a lot of granularity you can get into here. But just for Gamescom, we're just giving you the kind of basic 3-color scheme. But even with that, you can do some pretty fun combos.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that we're missing here, so when you make your own custom chapter, it is more than just the colors, right? You're able to make a character.
Yes, so you'll have your warlord character, what we call them, who's your faction leader. You'll have some more kind of 3D customization options about how they look, as well as some kind of gameplay stuff about their loadout.
Ну да, еще ж консоли, блин. Я представляю, что может с управлением быть. Хотя вроде зарубежные там, кто играли, сказали, что по управлению вроде бы как ПК, как бы, ну, как и было управление. Те, кто в обзоре уже пощупали. Горячие клавиши по перемещению отряда вроде те же остались.
So when you've made your faction,
Что,
you've got
зачем
colours,
менять
you've
то,
got
что
traits,
уже
and you've
это
made a character, and that is not just Space Marines.
третий десяток
Yes, all
лет
factions will
работает.
have this full suite of customization options.
Fantastic. How are we looking, Bedson? Bedson, you collect Dark Angels, don't you? And I think that has become very apparent in the colour scheme you've chosen.
Yeah, I mean, one thing to flag is, you know, we're not like gating colors or icons, right? If you want to make your kind of cosplay Dark Angels with this system, we're not going to stop you, right? You're not going to have all the kind of, you know, special units that the Dark Angels might have, but you can at least kind of LARP as them for a little while. So.
Okay. Anything else we want to say about customization before we move on? No? I guess the only other thing being customization, you'll see it on the campaign map, you'll see it in battle. The only one of the limitations for our
Не, ну да,
Gamescom
кастомизация
demo here is
прикольно.
you will not see
То,
them
что
represented
такое
in
это
the unit
есть, это
cards.
круто.
Yes.
The unit cards will still look very blue.
Yes, this is a surprisingly difficult technical challenge to resolve, but we're looking at solutions to it. Cool.
All right.
Oh,
Let's
he's actually made a nice. Most people don't make such nice.
yeah, he's become that the tester we were talking about.
Yeah.
Move on,
Yeah,
Benson.
get on with it.
Fantastic.
О,
So, now I
настройка
think we'll actually
интерфейса
be
это
a
будет в
better
самом
example of what
конце.
we were trying to talk about before
Поверь.
with the region moving.
Yes.
So
Уже не
show
раз
that
так
first.
бывало.
Before we do, once we're loaded in,
Интерфейс,
I guess
как правило, не пилят уже
I guess
это
there is. So I guess we'll-
за
we'll
3-4 месяца до выхода игры. Пилят интерфейс, кастомизацию интерфейса меняют. И карточки отрядов еще поменяют не раз.
Hello Stars subset. A critical astropathic relay station has fallen to the Orc Scourge. We, the Adeptus Astartes, are inbound. Our mission, to retake the station and purge the Xenos threat. Suffer not the alien to live.
Entering orbit. Orc fleet detected. Taking damage. Retaliating. Targeting large batteries. Enemy fleet destroyed. Proceeding with bombardment protocols.
Бля, разрешение как будто 720 или 360 у них стоит там.
Awaiting further
Четкости нет.
Strike force is primed for deployment. Our battle brothers are ready to make planetfall. The objectives are clear and verified.
Да, Тернидеров, Астро... Ну, Астромилитарум будет это...
For the Emperor,
А все остальное с DLC-шками со временем, да, там 100 500
Okay,
дополнений,
fantastic. So that's a bit of a mood setter for this.
расы,
this Gamescom
фракции,
demo.
ордена, все потом,
Welcome
да.
to our slice of a campaign. So we'll be Space Marines
Поддержка
here.
на
Yes,
десятилетия
previous.
будет.
And yeah, I do want to stress this is very much a slice of campaign. If James zooms out a bit, we'll see what we have to deal with on this planet.
And in the system.
Well, I was going to talk about the planet first, but let's talk about the planet first. So again, this is like a small slice of what you would see on a whole planet. This is like 2 to 3 large regions split up into I think a total of about 14 to 15 districts. That's probably about 10% of what you'd see on like an actual full planet.
Yep. Are all planets the same size?
No, we have a mix. Not only just in terms of physical size, but also.
Ты никогда не красил солдатню свою вдов? Я красил, да.
And they also have quite different biomes, quite different world types. This I think is like a wastes world.
Yep.
So it's got these kind of really gross, grungy, toxic pools and funky looking trees. And
По
stuff.
наигранным жопы часов у меня, конечно, дов первый. Во второй, в третий я немного играл. В третий так вообще там практически не играл. А так, первая. Первая легендарная, самая.
Are those ships reflecting the colours that he selected?
They should be, yes.
It looks it. Yeah, should we zoom out to the system?
Yeah, so this is an example of a kind of normal-sized campaign map. So you'll see there are not all of these planets I think you can land on. You can't land on the gas giant. That'd be a really bad idea. But you would have, say, like 3 to 4 kind of navigable planets that you would go to in a campaign map, and that would be the kind of full extent of your campaign experience within a single campaign.
Ну, там уже такие кампании больше про свободу действий, да, были, как бы ты выбираешь расу и погнал. А если брать по кампаниям, Winter Assault мне понравился.
And that is effectively an interconnected series of campaigns each of which is integrally connected to what's happening in the previous ones, right? So the tech that you research in this campaign, you can wrap up this campaign, you can complete your objectives, that's a nice kind of...
Бля, особенно в конце, когда ты там на Титане отбиваешься от армии некронов.
You'll have those same techs. The units that all ranked up will have the same ranks. The characters that you pick skills for, they'll have the same skills. You'll probably get like a reward for completing this campaign, or affect potentially not just the next campaign, but all the campaigns in the theater, right? Yep. If this campaign was themed around rescuing a major armaments factory, winning that campaign.
Бля, для меня особенно шок был, короче, когда я прошел Winter Assault, да, вот сюжетку, где в конце ты от некронов отбиваешься. Блин, и я просто на следующий день захожу в магазин дисков и вижу на полке Dark Crusade. Бля, 150 рублей. Во времена были.
And we'll actually, the turn counter will stay consistent over the whole theatre. So I think a fun challenge that maybe some of our streamers will want to do is how many turns can they complete the theatre in.
And we'll probably see how many, as in the max and the minimum, right?
Yes, indeed.
Oh, fantastic. So really, we've got a campaign within a campaign now as well.
Yeah, so the overall theatre experience is by a long way the biggest kind of combined gameplay experience we've ever done in Total War, right? Like it is, effectively multiple Mortal Empires stapled together.
Yep.
But we've broken it in such a way that if you want to just play,
Не, мне что-то по тому, что они вот уже показывают геймплей, мне кажется, что да, это похоже как на осень 27-го года. От силы, может быть, будет перенос на начало 28-го, типа февраль 28-го. Но тут уже явно не 2 года уже. Тут уже как бы это год-полтора, если вдруг им перенос понадобится время.
So that's effectively the space that James's Marines are controlling now. So anyone who tries to enter that who's an enemy, they will have to fight him. That's almost like his zone of control.
Yeah.
But if he wanted to capture the whole region, he'd have to go to the region capital, which is where you can see that nice big building with the icon. So that's effectively your capital settlement. So there's lots of positioning and positional gameplay.
Бля, ну к карте придется привыкать прям, пока не знаю.
There's all kinds of stuff you can do on the way. So we have a nice kind of mix of granularity and clarity.
Which is something we've seen players talking about in. They don't want it to just be hopping between settlements and making sure a planet feels big, right? Like there's space. Speaking of space,
fleet
interactions. So we have said there won't be naval battles, as in you're going in and you're playing a little RTS. But they're, at least for launch, but there are still ways to interact with the fleet. It's a very important part of the experience.
Они над ней работают с лета 22-го года.
A lot of our kind of gameplay design, right? It's a really kind of interesting space. It's very unique to this game compared to previous Total Wars. So your fleet is able to provide bombardments. It's able to drop these things called deployables. So Space Marines, for example, they can't replenish on the ground, right? You can't just walk up to the local village and turn some people into a Space Marine, right? They have to come from other places. But what you can do is your fleet can drop a little kind of medical supply crate. Your detachment can then walk up to that, pick it up, and then heal that way. So there's a real kind of integral connection, especially for Space Marines, between the fleet and the land gameplay.
Бля, ну смотри, он, кстати, курсором вводит по локации, там по региону, где его отряд стоит. Он его не может сместить левее, правее, крестик стоит на перемещении. Блядь, походу все-таки по регионам двигаются они. Смотри, вот курсор находится на регионе, вообще не может сместить, а на соседней, пожалуйста.
Fantastic. Well, we're on the second page. A few of the other things. Oh, do you want to talk about what Bedson's popping up?
Yeah, so James is now looking at the recruitment screen. Space Marine units, as I kind of said, they're very expensive. You should not be recruiting lots of them very frequently.
Да вот не пойму пока.
It's going to be hard for a lot of Total War players to kind of adjust to. Should not have 20 units in them, right? That's not how Space Marines function. You're going to be relying on local allies to kind of...
Может, потому что стек, ну,
может быть. Working with the local Aspiration, the local...
за этим понаблюдать.
While you are using these very small elite forces that are extremely powerful, but also extremely valuable and vulnerable to being lost.
A couple of questions I just saw.
Сейчас у меня не выбран.
What you were talking about earlier. Can you have multiple fleets? Can you have armies on multiple planets?
You can have armies on multiple planets, yes. So you'll only have one main fleet, but you can have multiple transport fleets. So any detachment can call in a little transport beacon.
Бля, интерфейс вообще пока для меня тут ничего не понятно по интерфейсу. На город щелкнул, где там что у него.
If you wanted to, yes. It's probably not the most efficient way to approach the campaign, but you can do that should you so desire.
Бля, а ну подожди еще раз. Непонятно, мне вот это вот непонятно. Смотри, у него армия выбрана, он не может ее переместить. Или она в найме стоит, или что. Да нет, по идее, не должны не батл сектора сделать, иначе, бля, это просто, ну это уже не Total War будет.
And you can perform a little action to kind of pick it up and get in your army. So James can do that now. Boom, we've got a land raider. We really want to bring in a lot of those kind of on-map interactions back into the game. That again, something we used to have in previous Total Wars, right? In Med 2, you could build.
Почему вот когда через сектор наводит, у него как будто фиксированный прыжок идет? Не пойму. Перемещение.
Little artillery bastions that will like automatically shoot at anyone who enters their zone of influence. They can build a Death Strike missile launcher that can be used to fire missiles to the other side of the planet. Little trench networks and that kind of thing. So there's all kinds of fun little bits and bobs that will appear on the map you can interact with in a really kind of nice, visual, tangible way.
Are you looking to end turn, Bedson? Go for it.
Ну или ландшафт непроходимый, фиг его знает.
You did spark a thought.
Надеюсь.
That grabbed my head. So someone was saying it looks like there's not as many options, and that is because there is a lot of the campaign elements have been stripped out of this for this demo.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So a lot of systems that you would find in the full game, so like the full building trees, the full fleet upgrade trees, the full tech tree, they're not visible here.
Yep.
But they are there. The tech trees, for example, because the tech trees extend over the course of the entire Crusade Theatre experience, right? They are big. I know a lot of people have been looking at the new Nagash Black Pyramid tech tree that we added to Warhammer 3. That is, just wait until you see the Orc tech tree.
Yeah.
It's full, chaotic, massive, sprawling stuff. So there's going to be lots of options. Depending on who you're playing as, you'll have those options. Like Space Marines aren't really big on building so much on planets, but they do have this whole fleet upgrade system, which is unique to them. So they will have a very kind of intricate way of upgrading their fleets that wouldn't be available to Ashton Tarum, but Ashton Tarum might have more options of building on the ground and that kind of thing.
So someone was asking about diplomacy, as an example.
So diplomacy is an interesting one, right? Because you know the tagline is there is only war in the grimdark future of the first millennium. So we are not going to be seeing things like, you know, Space Marines sitting down with orcs to negotiate a peace treaty where they're trading like a jade chicken in return for, you know, the settlement of Yoyang and all that. You know, it's much more tactical in its focus. And much more kind of contextual.
Да, вроде он двинулся туда, куда как бы щелкнул. Вроде бы. Да нет, вроде бы норм. Бля, просто как-то привык, тут, понимаете, путь прокладывается, да, стрелкой такой прямой. Когда ты в Total War'ах, да, там прокладываешь путь, он изогнутый, там по дороге, еще как-то там задаешь путь армии. Потом, возможно, вот эта стрелка прямая, которая перемещает, она стулку сбивает.
Space Marines when they interact with Ashton Tarum, for example, or planetary governors. Really nice, crunchy things like, you know, as a Space Marine, you can walk up to like a planetary militia unit.
Ну, это точки, это сектора, это типа регионы, это, пожалуйста, вот тебе жирным выделена провинция, и она разбита на регионы. Вон эдикты даже есть, указы.
Another example here is the governors. You can see in the bottom left.
That's actually what I was just about to ask.
There we go. I knew it. Every planet will have like a slightly quirky governor character who's kind of in charge of that planet. And like all factions, so all factions will react to things you do in the world.
Да, вот огромный город, грубо говоря, и все остальное разбито на регионы. Грубо говоря, ваши маленькие колхозы.
But they've all got different personalities, right? So you might find a governor who really loves industry. Like he loves his trains, for example. So if you go on his planet and you start bombing all of his trains and his industrial factories, he's going to get really pissed off.
Население 45 миллиардов.
And he's not going to give you access to some diplomatic actions that you would have with that governor. However, you might have a governor who's a complete psychopath, and he actually loves it when you kill anyone, even.
Ну, да, непривычно, я согласен.
His factories, he might be like, "Hey, cool, I love that." So there's all these opportunities for kind of like fun, weird storytelling with the governors, where it's a kind of another version of diplomacy, but in line with how this IP works.
Yes. And are we? Is the attitude log something we can click to show?
There probably won't be anything in there. No,
There's not anything yet. But when you do things, that is going to plus or minus with the governor.
The kind of things that you've done, right? So it's a kind of it's quite a fun game of like working out what the governor likes and what they don't.
Да, да, к детальным, конечно, говорю, из этого как бы карта пока очень странно ощущается. По сравнению с тем, какая детализация в третьей Вахе, блин, сейчас все равно. Здесь как будто это все как однородная масса, блин. Особенно сдалека, он даже не поймешь, где горы у тебя.
But that's going to be spending that influence resource, which kind of governs your ability to manipulate other factions in the world. Yeah, if you want to be doing that kind of thing, you need to be keeping the governor happy. You need to be doing things that are diplomatic.
Someone started a question with Mr. Jake, but I think they're talking to you. They're asking just for, as a recap then, what is it like to start a campaign?
It will depend a lot on what campaign you're starting. Like, that's one of the great things about having these multiple different... Oh, I guess Crusade Theatre,
yeah.
I guess is the question. So if we think about trying Crusade Theatre, which is that campaign of campaigns...
Ну, это неизвестно, как интерфейс будет меняться.
Every faction has a starting
Это непонятно.
And you just go straight into that. So this is... Something like this is very much like the first thing you would see after choosing your faction or building your custom faction. You go straight into your first campaign. When you finish that, that's when you kind of zoom out to the Crusade Theatre layer, and you'll effectively see like a sort of node map of all these different star systems connected by like space lanes and stuff. And then it's up to you like which order you proceed through those on your journey towards Armageddon.
I will have a follow-up question for you on that. But before I see that, I see a lot of people asking about other features of stuff like co-op campaign,
Сдалека это вообще каша, просто забейте, вот с этого вообще она не смотрится.
There's still a lot of tech being worked out in the background. We will come back and we will have those discussions. I don't want you to feel like we're ignoring you. I do see it. We just don't have anything.
Если Вахи так в третьей отдалю, то будут понятней.
Information about the infrastructure systems there.
There's another Space Marine feature on the screen here I could talk about.
Go for it.
So if... Benson was already moving in the right direction. It's what he knew. So one of the things about the Space Marines, right, was really interesting about the
Сдалека вообще, что это? Вот это лес, горы, вот это что? Горы, лес, блин. Где что, блин? Какой рельеф.
If you say it, I can't stop you. So.
Okay, I was going to say, well, everyone's shit scared of them. Because of a little thing that happened 10,000 years ago called the Horus Heresy.
Плюс это что, вот это белое, это непроходимые зоны, что ли, выделены?
Well, how long have we got? So they are constantly juggling between this tension between like I am here to kill Xenos and save the Imperium, but also this like sclerotic, awful nightmare bureaucracy that is the Imperium might not be giving me the resources that I need to do that. If I do the things to get those resources, like administer territory, some Inquisitor back on Terra.
Или четкости игре нету, может, что у них там это... В каком разрешении запущена игра? В битвах как бы вроде еще более-менее, а вот на планете...
So if you're, but the more famous you become and the more renowned you become, the more eyes are on you. So you might be, the best Space Marine guy in the world who's done all these victories, but as many chapters have encountered throughout their history, that just means that the Inquisition are more suspicious of you because they're more worried that you might do something wrong.
Yep.
So we're really keen to explore that kind of tension at the heart of the Imperium. Right? Like the Imperium are not good; they're not the good guys. Right, like this is the nightmare regime that you're working for, and you're really having to kind of balance that against what you need to do. There might be cases where the morally correct thing to do, like not murder civilians, might be seen as deeply suspicious. So there are all kinds of fun scenarios to kind of come from that.
It depends on if they were suspicious civilians, I guess.
Well, who says they're suspicious, right?
The question I had for you was the move to a theater system.
Теперь насколько можно максимально приблизить камеру? Еще ближе вот можно то, что вот сейчас?
Two things really. So we have seen.
Да, постройки пока, я так понимаю, тоже еще в процессе, да, работают. Постройки-то из разряда 1, 2, 3 у тебя.
And we really wanted to find a way to make the game feel big and sprawling and interconnected and support like multiple successive campaigns without having to make that into one like just big never-ending thing. Right, but it's imagine it's like people, we see this all the time in Warhammer, like people go and they play 100 Carl Franz campaigns. And the dream of this is like every Carl Franz campaign you play like isn't just thrown away at the end, right? It feeds into your next Carl Franz campaign, so it feels like it's all part of like a big ongoing journey.
So I guess the equivalent is you play a Karl Franz campaign, and the first campaign is you're in the old world, right? And then you finished it. Well done, you've conquered the old world. And then instead of that kind of ending there, or that being your experience, when you start the next Karl Franz campaign, you're not in the old world again. You're in the new world, or in Lustria, right?
Yeah.
So it's you're taking that army and you're an invading force somewhere else.
Yes, and you get that nice reset, which helps keep the difficulty curve in place. It helps keep the game varied, right?
Yep.
Because these planets and these systems will be very different, with different objectives, different enemies to fight. So it allows us to kind of have this long-going narrative where you might play, 600 turns across Crusade Theatre. But we can kind of keep it fresh, keep injecting new stuff, keep the gameplay engaging without it kind of getting run out of control. So it's a really exciting way to kind of, I think, capture. I think sometimes some of us, I'm getting old now. I like to be able to complete a campaign in an afternoon, right? And this allows me to do that with a smaller campaign, for example, but still not feel like that is kind of wasted or thrown away when I'm done with that.
To scoop up a couple of little things that people have grabbed from me from chat. Questions about resizing the UI. I believe there will be a lot of kind of those accessibility and rescaling.
Я думаю, наверное,
options,
графическая
not in this demo,
составляющая
the point
еще, я
that it's
думаю,
kind of plug and
поменяется,
play.
должна.
But that's something that we
Но
look
пока-
into. How big is this planet
Они же геймплей,
relative to other
показывают вам.
planets?
Я очень
So
буду
it depends
надеяться,
on
что это не
in
все.
terms of
Это
actual
пока
physical size of the orb, I think this is like a medium-sized planet. So it's the biggest
зачаток
one we have.
графической
In terms of actual
составляющей.
number of regions on it, it's very stripped back.
Yep.
Like I said, I think the average planet, a large planet, would have around 3 continents on it. Each of those would have about 5 to 7 regions. A region is split into about 5-ish districts.
Yep.
So you're talking about I can't do the maths, but like there's quite a lot bigger than what you see here in terms of actual kind of gameplay content and factions and all of that stuff.
I have just looked at the time. We are at 3:30, and we have so much to go through.
God, okay.
So a little bit of a speed run on resources. What resources am I using here as Space Marines?
So Space Marines, your core resources are requisition, and that's what you would use to recruit new units, to upkeep new units, to build buildings, to build fleet upgrades, and influence, which is a kind of your local political resource that you would use to. Like I said, get the governor to do things for you, maybe to recruit some allied units from a friend National Mataran faction, that kind of stuff. So those are kind of faction level ones. But there's resources everywhere in this game, right? Like, James, if you select a region on the map, you'll see that this region has 17 billion people in it. So that's the population of the region. So we are actually modeling, like each region has a population count. That will go up and down. If you bombard it, they'll die. If you blow up the planet, they'll all die. And that in turn will feed into the amount of resource that produces.
Что необитаемо? 17 миллиардов он в регионе проживает.
I haven't actually checked with the UI updates now. You might have to click off it and try again. Okay. No.
Ты их просто не видишь.
They were.
But it will update. That's really cool then. So we've spoken about population edicts, Space Marine mechanics, resources, governor interactions, events on the regions, unit recruitment. Units don't need a general.
Oh yeah. We thought mentioned. I guess there's another case of us kind of going back to our sort of past in some ways and trying to pull the best of all worlds of Total War.
Поговорим о населении, диктах, губернаторах.
And that works really nicely with this like slightly coarser.
Разделила от армию.
You can do things like if you've got a choke point that's slightly too wide, right? You just take an army and you split in half, and they reinforce each other. You can defend both points, right? You don't have to try and like awkwardly position the zones of control just in the right place.
О, они наконец-таки сделали, что можно это разделять, там типа в армии будет капитан, а не генерал.
And it helps the AI to interact with those systems, right? Okay. We have got just a few more campaign things to say, and then we'll go into the second battle. Right, campaign. We've spoken about that. Victory conditions.
Yeah, so they will be quite campaign specific. So depending on the campaign, you might be trying to kill a specific war boss. You might be trying to hunt down a renegade Imperial Guard commander. You might be trying to capture some specific factories, something like that. So it's very specific to the campaign and to the faction as well, right?
Yep.
Eldari are not going to be pursuing the same goals. Eldari goals are often weird and not comprehensible to mortal beings. So you'll see a lot of variety in what you're trying to achieve in each individual campaign, and even planet to planet there'll be a lot of variety.
But as always, the goal of them is there's a kind of general
Забытые технологии
objective for you to be
прошлого.
able to do it. I believe you can continue beyond that if you want to
Yeah,
take off
and
the whole
again, you know,
system.
ultimately, they're quite broad, the objectives,
Yes.
right? Like when it's not hand-holdy. It's totally up to you to decide how you want to achieve that goal. And we're going to support all kinds of, when you combine traits and tech trees and all of that, there's going to be many, many different ways you can approach these problems.
Fantastic. Detachment composition effects.
Oh yeah, this is a little one. I mean, this is an idea we nicked from our colleagues over on Warhammer DLC from the Gorfang Rockgut DLC. You get nice little effect. Basically, depending on who's in your detachment, you will get passive effect.
Чего хотим? Да, мы ничего не хотим, просто как бы высказываем по мнению, что на данный момент видим. Рано пока что-либо хотеть. Но то, что мы видим, оно же может в конечном итоге перерасти и в финальный результат, да?
So your choice of units in the army has kind of campaign consequences in a really nice way. So sometimes it will be an ability, right, that you unlock. So a lot of the Space Marine doctrines you will unlock by having a certain combination of units in your army, and again, it adds that kind of tactical element of how you combine your armies.
I will say, you didn't mean Gorfang Rockgut. That wasn't one of the DLCs. That's not Will confirming a DLC, I promise.
Oh, sorry. Who was it? What's his name?
Is it the Orc?
Yeah, the Orc guy.
Which one?
The most recent Orc one.
From Omens.
Oh, Gorbat Ironclaw. That's his name. Yeah, sorry.
There was no. We're not making up a new Orc. I'm confirming that as a DLC. Fantastic. So we've got detachment compositions, character skills.
Yes. So we will have characters will have skills. They have skill trees. They have traits. Those won't be visible in this build. But
there we go.
Yeah, it's a little less. There's a little less focus on characters versus some previous from Warhammer. So these aren't going to be skill trees where you have like 30 different skills, where you have incremental skill points. There's a lot more kind of chunky binary choices. There's also a really cool thing that we've got in. So we brought back the concept of followers, which again is something we had in the previous game, like Medieval. But these are not just like a UI icon that you put on your character. If you have a flash gate follower as an orc and you put him in your warlord's bodyguard, he's going to be there in battle, right? If you have a chaplain and you put them in your chapter master's bodyguard, he's going to be there in battle. So these followers are things you can collect, but you'll actually see them in the bodyguard of your character.
And that's been really important from the dynamic cutscenes and from you saying events on the map. It is about when you've done something, you've added someone to your squad. It's about seeing that reflected, right?
It's not just a game about menus and numbers, right? It's about real things that happen in the world space.
We have two more things, and then we will let Bedson play this battle. Unit specialization and upgrades.
Ну вот, да, два танка.
Big Up Tabletop is how you kit out your units. Space Marines in particular have a lot of different options. They have autobot, stalkerbot rifles, and again, not in this build. But you will.
Движок какой, говорю, ну этот новый, как я забыл, называется, блин.
Yep.
And those will unlock based on their experience levels.
Который презентовали они в декабре. Что-то там Кор, что-то там как-то там. Не помню. Варкор вроде.
My favorite is the Death Dread because you can choose how many of its arms are guns and how many of its arms are swords. So there's all kinds of cool stuff you can do.
Okay, the last question we have is: are there different planet regions?
Yes, so each of these kind of regions, that's the larger group of districts that you can see here, has a kind of a theme and a purpose to it. One thing that's really important about this IP is that, it's not...
Сколько ходов, интересно, надо, чтобы планету взять под контроль?
Right, no one is turning up and building a new hive city. The hive city is there. So you'll see, for example, there's a Voidcraft Disruptor network here. That has its own unique building tree that you would only find in that kind of region.
Yep.
And you can't just build that anywhere. Right, so you kind of turn up there. You have to deal with this kind of the local landscape in a kind of fun way.
Yep. Cool. We're gonna let Bedson go into the battle. There may be some more campaign stuff we pick up, but we have 2 working mics now, hopefully. So should be that we can all talk at once. There was a question of what factions there will be at launch.
So we have our 4 playable factions, which is Space Marines, Eldari, Orcs, and Ashmetara. Each of those will have 2 playable sub-factions, which are like an authored lore faction. So they'll come with their own special traits, their own special characters, color themes, etc. But for each of those, you'll also be able to build, many, many thousands of combinations of custom factions as well. Yeah.
Has our capture card gone down? Oh, let me put us on main camera. Oh no, it was. It's rebooted itself. Hold on, we're back. Thank you, Will. I will say I've been having a blast customizing the factions where I can. I think a lot of people are gonna do you think a lot of people are going to immediately jump in, make their first Space Marine custom chapter as their first experience, or would you expect them to come in as...
we kind of want to support both, right? Because we have two kinds of players. Yeah, some people just want to get straight into the action. They just want to be like, I'm boring. Sorry, I'm biased because I don't like Ultramarines. But you can say, I'm boring, I want to play Ultramarines. You can just do that.
Yeah.
Or you can be like, I'm cool, I'm going to make my pink Marines called the Space Bears or whatever.
FPS.
Yeah, we really want to support both options, right? Like, customization is huge. But we do know, especially from the Warhammer trilogy, that people like having these kind of big names who they can play as well. So we're really trying to support both options.
And you can see there in the, I think our capture card is just about recovered. You can see in there the custom faction in that was their colours. That was Bedson's colours that he chosen in that cutscene. And as we got that land
Доить они игру будет не только DLC, но еще и скинами.
Like he's clearly trying to match most of the match tank numbers.
Oh yeah, he was busy while we were talking.
This is an absolutely devastating amount of firepower.
He wants to make sure he really doesn't lose this battle. Okay, feel free to get started. So one of the burning questions is, we have a land raider in there, but people have spotted there's no such thing as a transport capacity yet.
Yeah.
Is there a transport ability?
Not for release. It's definitely something that we're keen to look into. So we'll see.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because I've seen some.
Кстати, я думаю, потом это поправят, чтобы карточки тоже цвет меняли.
Would see and that they definitely want. My understanding is the discussion is to make sure the technology to do it right is there. That's why that decision's been made, rather than rushing in with a system that kind of would half work. We want to do something that actually feels good for transports.
Yeah, and there's also the secondary part, which any feature that we do, we want to ensure that the AI can also use it correctly. And like transports are such a central mechanic for how you can operate on a battlefield. What are your tactical choices? So, if we do transports, we want to ensure that the AI is also capable of using them.
Yeah, and we're planning to support this game for a long time. Yeah, right? Like we'll be constantly adding new features, and certainly, like, say if your favorite faction happens to be heavily reliant on transports, I think you can probably suspect that we would have them in the game before that happened.
Yeah. And in the meantime, like units that are transports, we're trying to ensure that they're also relevant combat units, which they often are. And like transports you've seen are generally more combat capable as well.
And we do have things like drop pods, and I think some units can be dropped by Valkyries. Is that something we...
Норки, массовка.
So you will see kind of transport light things, but they're not going to hang around the battlefield afterwards. They'll kind of fly in and drop their units off and then fly away.
You're really hoping they're going to go over that bridge, aren't you? So some things people have seen there. We spoke in the last stream about the in-battle abilities.
Бля, ну это просто они такую покраску армии выбрали.
Yes, so we have three doctrines. So you have the tactical doctrine, which basically gives you a burst of speed, bit of accuracy. Main reason for this is basically if you need to move, for example, if you need to strafe away from an incoming horde, get to a key position fast. It's good for that.
Yep.
And you can basically activate in an area to gain that bonus where you most need it. Devastator basically maximizes your firepower, helps you punch through armor. Just kind of really kind of help your gun line punch through where it's needed. And finally, you've got the assault doctrine, which is like when you need some good melee output, it's there for you.
So again, kind of mimicking the tabletop, right?
Like if you have your Terminators punching somewhere or your assault intercessors, go for assault. It's gonna help you shine.
Yeah, and again, the reason that Bedson has these unlocked is because he's built a balanced army with some shooting units, some melee units, and that's how you're gonna get access to these various doctrine abilities.
Yeah, you can see the orc milkshake in action as well. It's traveling in a slightly.
They really hated that building.
Yeah, it really hates that building, and it hates a couple of orcs that have been chucked away. But well aimed. This vortex is incredibly powerful.
So that was an ability from the librarian. Our favourite space wizard.
And one thing, so that's one thing we didn't have in the Astra Militarum battle, Bedson, if you're able to click the librarian, and that is abilities. Did you find them in the battlefield instead of the cards? Well done. That is them having their own abilities outside of just Space Marine abilities, right? There are unit abilities.
Yeah, we've tried to keep unit abilities quite minimal. Like, because in the end, like we want to focus on the action, and we kind of want to ensure that the game it's more about tactics than just like micromanaging every ability that you have, or say hit the combat buff button to give you 20% more attack for this unit, and then wait on a cooldown.
There was a question there of why were there Imperial Guard in the middle of the battlefield when we started it?
So basically, we have ambient units. These are like units. There's constant war on these planets, and like there's always going to be local forces already kind of joining in on the fight. It just really helps kind of set the mood and set the scene for this vast conflicts.
Yeah. And it helps get the scale as well, right? Like, even when your army of Space Marines might not be like tons and tons of entities.
Разрушение! Бля, нихера, что там танк так подкинуло.
If you had orcs running around, or whoever the other side might be.
Танк 4 вагона переехал. Это маневр. Обход с фланга.
Yep. And the Bedson's setting up a perfect ambush there.
He's gonna
just kind of Kool-Aiding his way through all the buildings.
Yeah. So one of the things we didn't get to talk about last time, which was very shooting focused, was melee combat. We did have a lot of questions about it though, so I was wondering if you could give us a little bit of a breakdown of how melee combat works here. Maybe how it's different to other Total War titles, or what's been improved.
So, kind of like, again, the key part that we've kind of focused on is like, how do we sell the fantasy? How do we make melee combat kind of look like it belongs in the world? Like a key area that we've really looked into is just the fluidity of combat. So like how frequently do entities attack, for example? Like you can't do a Space Marine where every 4 seconds a Space Marine will attack.
Yep.
That just doesn't sell the fantasy. So we've kind of gone, well, Space Marine should probably try to attack as frequently as possible.
Ну, типа они говорили, что даже воронки от бомбардировок можно использовать как укрытие.
But that might just be a break to shoot.
To get the pistol ready.
Yeah. Or just like to find a new thing to punch. And we basically spend quite a bit of time just kind of trying to figure out like how do entities make movement decisions in combat. Like how can they maneuver to get to do what they need to do.
Yeah.
So for example, like Space Marines, if they start getting kind of surrounded,
нужен геймплей, где орки побеждают эту имбу.
Towards like kind of forming this fighting circle.
Тоже второй стрим, но просто нагибают орков раком.
Space Marines can be flanked. They generally they take less of a debuff if they get basically flanked compared to like they're armored more around. I think they just
либо это опять как обычно и тупо всей толпой валит кучи, их удобно артой раскидывают. Мне кажется, если игрок бы за орками играл, они бы там шли вдоль всей линии, чтобы таких массированных ударов не было. Что реально просто 6-7 отрядов куча идет.
Might not stand back from an orc boy, but they might stand back from a stomper.
Oh yeah.
And in the same way, like a trooper, like a Ashtamil trooper might not be. Well, they're
not going to step back from.
Well, they're gonna probably not Gretchen. But they, for example, like boys, will be more threatening towards a trooper.
Yeah.
And they'll, try to like they don't want to withdraw from combat.
Yeah.
Like it's their place. They know what they want to do.
Просто мимо ходит, их
расстреливает.
Whereas
a trooper might, or like a boy might step away from Space Marine and be like, okay, actually.
Yeah.
This is still a bit scary. Like I'm aggressive. I want to punch
так
them.
можем пойти в Вахи 3 орков пострелять в моде на Millennium.
I just got distracted by Benson. One of the most egregious act of overkill.
Really disliked that one orc. Alright, fantastic. We can end that there. I will say the
Потери 44.
well, obviously we are still working on optimization. Genuinely, that is our capture card dying in the background there. It's been going for a few years, and I think it's time for us to get a new one. Right, we're going to load back. I think we've got one more battle that we can play through, but we'll play through that battle and we'll just take some questions. So there's nothing more for us. So we'll see if there's stuff that people can bring up, and that hopefully we'll be able to answer.
Battle challenge сейчас будет.
So if you guys have questions based on anything you've heard, so we've got campaign to talk about, we've got battle to talk about. Otherwise, even if there are things we've already answered, we can go back over if needed. But otherwise, who are your favourite factions in Warhammer 40,000? Not in Total War.
Oh, I'm an Agnek.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I love my little robot Skitarii. I have an army downstairs. But I was very sad we weren't put in the first game, but never say never.
Yeah, for me it's Astra Militarum.
You're very happy then.
More of the, well, not quite. My army is Deathcore, so still waiting.
Yeah, I mean you'll see in this battle that in the first battle Benson was fighting, his librarian was in Tacticus armor. This time he's in Terminator armor, so he's a lot more of a chunky lad. When I played this battle with my colleague Dave in the past, we've started calling him Dumble War.
Oh yeah.
Or occasionally Gundalf. We can't decide which we prefer because he's a battle wizard. But yeah, we really want you to get very attached to these characters, right? Like you're going to see him go from a little Tacticus armored. I don't say nobody because he can blow you up with his brain.
Yeah.
But from a junior to someone who wears a whole solid ton of Ceramite armor.
Can they die?
They can die. Yes. So apart from your faction leader, every character can die permanently. They have a wound system, which means they'll be a little bit resilient. I have to kill them a few times. And of course, for Space Marines, it wouldn't be Space Marines if you couldn't take the mushed up, almost corpse of a Space Marine and shove it in a big metal tin can and send it back into battle as a dreadnought. So there will be a little mechanic where even if your character has died, they might continue to serve the Emperor in a slightly chonkier form.
And when that dreadnought's blown up, we'll put that in a bigger dreadnought. Be like one of those Russian nesting dolls by the end.
Yeah, so even so dreadnoughts and actually land raiders as well, like we're treating them almost like characters as well. Like these are super rare, super powerful, ancient creations that are really valuable. So yeah, I think while you probably can theoretically get a 20 stack of dreadnoughts at some point very, very late in the theatre, like that's not something we'll want to make easy or something you'll see a very commonplace, right? Even a 20 stack of Space Marines in total, right, is actually quite a rare sight.
So I will ask you that question in a second, because someone was asking, will all factions have a deep level of customization? And yes, they will. What was the last thing you said?
Отдельные ординальные десантуры будут выделены под отдельные фракции. Я думаю, наиболее крупные, сделают, у которых будет свой какой-то уникальный старт на определенных планетах. Наверное, да, будет.
Yeah, so a lot of it will be just how we regulate the economy, and the dreadnoughts, for example, like to actually get a dreadnought, you have to there's a capacity limit on them, which you have to kind of upgrade over time, and also like certain units, for example, will primarily only be available via upgrades from other units, right? So something you kind of borrowed from the Warriors of Chaos in Warhammer 3. If you want like a standard
сейчас всю кучу расхерачит.
Right, there might be some you have to rank them as
Стрим
assessors,
падает.
make them into a veteran, upgrade them again, so they feel like really valuable over time.
Эльдары, наверное, просто не готовы пока еще.
Other factions won't have so many problems getting units. It's you actually probably end up with more Gretchen than you really want in your campaign, but you've got them, so you might as well make use of them by throwing them in as meat shields and using their teeth to buy better units.
Fantastic. There's questions there about
Сейчас, подожди, какая-нибудь... У них он там вызов подкрепления с орбиты еще идет.
Yeah, I mean they're there in small portions.
I remember
Вон терминаторы пришли.
On one of our streams about the difficulties of sync kills when it comes to them balancing factions, of like the length of a sync kill and how invulnerable they are during that time. So I think this is about trying to find
Смотри,
balance.
быстрочисленность орков сокращается.
Having reliable units where if you ask them to pull back, they're not stuck in a 10-second animation.
Yeah, and it's very much about, like, again, for us, sync kills are a way of selling connection.
Yeah.
But use them too much, they become very repetitive, unless you've built, like, a huge pool of sync kills, which is incredibly expensive. So, I think we have a lot of faith in, like, we can sell most of the connection just through doing asynchronous combat really well, and ensuring that there's good reactions, there's a feeling of impact, and that's like our main focus, because like asynchronous combat plays better for the game that we're trying to make. But there is a place for, like, the spectacle of a sync kill.
It's finding that balance, and I think there was a discussion of, like, is it ragdolling, I guess, when they're killed, of like it's more physics based responses to things. I mean, we saw it in the Land Raider kind of veering on one side as it was going over an obstacle, right? That wasn't an animation, that was a dynamic response.
So that would be like the physics based impulses that, for example, vehicles have. don't use ragdolling for basically not flying of infantry, for example.
Yep.
That is still kind of more of a game logic driven, like speed calculation or velocity calculation of like
Right.
they're going in this direction, they're gonna lose this amount of speed due to air
So a
resistance.
much fancier thing than me just saying ragdolling.
Well, ragdolling is a very specific
Yes.
technological term.
I feel like I've treaded on a landmine with
I
that
mean,
word.
if you give an orc and all his bits go flying off in different directions,
Yeah.
like that's not handling. That's kind of all a bit sort of dynamic. And yeah, the vehicle tech stuff is really cool. Like if you take a
Космодесант, будет имперская гвардия, орки, эльдары.
Just like in tabletop.
Хаоса вроде нет в старте на релизе. Если только его типа каким-то бонусом за предзаказ сделают, как это было во второй в Вахе. Первый. Ну, так вот 4 раза только пока на данный момент.
So sometimes when it dies, it will just go flying off in random directions.
Yep.
And it can crash into a building. And that building can then fall over and land on some other storm boys who can then explode and then fly into something else. So it really allows these kind of
первый, да,
cool
Вась, в
emergent
первый.
storytelling moments to super exciting.
Oh, this is very important for Bedson that this goes off. Because he is getting relatively overwhelmed, so this is quite an important strike.
Интересно, некронов-то, да,
Oh, there
это
we go.
думаю.
Has that saved
Все
you?
добавят со временем.
The question is, do you still
Интересно,
have
с
reinforcements?
40 тысяч. Ну,
He has
пока
a
об этом,
few.
кстати,
Have
нигде
you
не
got any?
говорилось. Скорее всего,
He's
вряд
got
ли.
one.
Скорее всего, расширять они, если и будут,
Will
да,
the
там
AI be playing
сектора
differently,
добавлять,
I
то
guess,
это,
on
скорее
battle
всего,
for
будет
different
в
factions like
виде
Eldari?
обнов и выпуска DLC
Yes,
будут
that's
появляться.
definitely a goal, like, you know,
По крайней мере, нигде не говорилось. Тогда еще задолго до релиза говорилось, что Warhammer будет трилогией. Здесь об этом не говорилось ни разу.
Like the orcs here are generally mostly melee units.
Yep.
Their army is very melee focused. It makes sense for them to try to come at you. But obviously, like something like an Eldari will take a very different approach to combat.
I think Bedson's trying to offensively use some of his drop pods now, which is a fantastic way to use them.
Yeah, he should.
Oh, he's teleported in.
I mean, that's still a fine
Yeah.
move because, you know, those Terminators in that combat, there's nothing to really hurt them, so...
I think I just saw a storm boy flying off there.
Rest in peace, Space Bears, someone said. It's alright, the Space Bears were successful. This is back to the not Ultramarines.
Yeah, so long as you kill enough orcs as you die,
Yep.
it's fine. You know?
Yeah.
That's your job, to live and die for the Emperor.
There is a question of, is it the intent that the custom faction will be represented?
Ну,
on the
ну да,
cards?
посмотрим.
In some way, yes. I think we're still trying to work out exactly how we can do that.
Третью сразу лучше ждать.
And the only
Бля, третья часть не значит, что она будет хорошая. Вот как, допустим, первую и вторую Ваху выпустили, а третью до сих пор СИ все проблемы испытывает уже 4 года релиза. А и, блин, как пень.
Whereas if you're fighting against kind of a goth-themed melee faction, they'll be using lots of, you know, mega nobs with kill source and stuff. So you should see very different army compositions based on its personalities, which again keeps the game varied, keeps it feeling alive and exciting.
Fantastic. I got a bit lost watching it there and forgetting that also I was meant to be grabbing questions for you. Would there be any chance that if you made a custom
Ну,
faction,
каша,
you would
да,
end up
здесь
facing them in
пока
your own
трендец,
campaign
здесь пока
as a
еще
different faction?
это...
I'm really throwing questions at you now that I don't know the answer to, so good luck.
So I'm not sure where we've settled on this, but there is some stuff that we were trying to do with in terms of bringing in.
Тут просто различаешь отряды, просто потому что они цветом различаются. Синие и зеленые, блин. А так каша сумасшедшая идет. Он смотрел, на какой там, на каком компании играет
It does look
просто.
like Bedson stabilized it.
It's not in this build, but we've had some tech in recently where if you drive a tank across those corpses, they'll kind of pop like grapes in big gory splatters. So, yeah.
He's done it, well done. Fantastic. I was going to call out at the start that we all call him different things, James or Bedson, but it's not a term of you know, hierarchy. It's because we've known him for 9 years. Awesome. Then I think that is our last battle. Well done, Bedson, for prevailing. Space Bears prevail, as the chat say. Perfectly planned to look close. Fantastic. Then we've run through everything we have here. News on closed beta soon for those of you who are looking for it. And you can expect Total War Warhammer 40,000 to be coming out in 2027. If you're there at Gamescom. You're probably not
Что
watching
он
the
там
stream.
видит
But
такого
go give it a
фантастику?
go
Ну,
and
ты что, не
let us know
видел,
what you
как орки
think.
разлетались просто
But
в кашу
if you
там?
haven't signed up for the closed beta, absolutely worth
Бомбардировки,
doing that as well. Thank
месилово.
you very much for joining us. Thank you to our fabulous guests. May not be the last we see of you guys. It is annoying that we ended up swapping seats. So thank you, Will, and thank you, Oscar.
Главное,
for
орков
joining us.
покучнее сгруппировать.
We'll let you know when our next alpha strike is. I don't think it will be super far off, and that will probably be covering some of the closed beta. But other than that, we will see you next week for, I believe it will be our Glotkin stream.
Следующий альфа-удар будет не
Thank you
так...
very much, everyone, for coming. Thank you so much for the questions.
Не так скоро.
And we'll get back to you next week.
Типа по осени, наверное, что-то еще покажут. Все? Ну, чё? Чё сказать? Пока сложно что-то сказать, блин. Мне пока карта все равно не нравится. Давай обратно к Марать. Обратно к Марать. Что у нас сейчас? 7 часов. Погнали, еще 2 часика можно будет порубиться за Марать. Сейчас на стрим перезапущу. Да, там 2 планеты показали, что одна не как-то странно выглядела, что вторая пока странно выглядела. Просто какой-то сгусток массы, где непонятно, где лес, где горы вообще, какое взаимодействие на карте можно делать. Пока все это очень странно все равно. Все, сейчас перезапущу стрим на ютубе и на... ну только на ютубе.